I just would like to welcome all of you here in Zoom today, especially to the organization who really give their time and effort to make this webinar possible. Hoping and believing that this 3 days webinar will be productive, meaningful, and successful one. So I would like to recognize also the participants coming from TCU, Dr. Pakulanang Biligardo. Good afternoon. From CNU, Ma'am Irma Jane S. Cayas. Good afternoon, ma'am. Of course, from Bolso, Meneses, Ma'am Bernardina Nio. And of course, from Lapu-Lapu City, Dr. Julian John Limutan. And of course, good afternoon also to Joy Kenneth Biasong, to Monali de la Zerna from SNSU. And of course, from Tacloban City, Cristobal Jr. Rabuya. Good afternoon, sir. And of course, we are also live via POMI YouTube channel. And to those who are not be able to attend this webinar, just browse the recorded webinar to the YouTube channel for your self-paced learning. Stay where you are, listen to the discussion to our esteemed speaker this afternoon. Good afternoon also to Sunny Mulenyo from Iloilo. Sir, welcome. I just would like also to recognize the presence of our esteemed speaker this afternoon, Dr. Gilbert C. Magulo Jr. Sir, good afternoon. And of course, to the participants coming from East Manila, Sir Hernan M. Oliveros from Cavite State University, Tanza Campus. Good afternoon. And of course, from Batangas State University, the National Engineering University, Alangilan Campus, Sir Oliver S. Di Mailat. Sir, good afternoon. And of course, from Philippines Christian University, Sir Herbert San Pedro. Another participants coming from Aurora State College of Technology, Angelica Vallejo. Good afternoon po. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Before we formally start with the webinar, I just would like to remind everyone, open your camera most of the time. Always mute your microphone so that we will not hear unnecessary noise during the proceedings. Use headphones or earphones. Find a seat or location that is comfortable and well lighted. It is advised to wear business or smart casual attire. Finish the whole national webinar virtual conference and complete the evaluation for you to get your certificate. Always direct your concern through personal message on our page or in our email address so we can provide answer to your concern. Another reminders, all participants from state universities and colleges are assigned to the different committees created by the sponsoring organizations. Each committee has its own duties and responsibilities stated in the committee designation. Each committee member is required to submit an accomplishment report in narrative form. This will be the basis for the issuance of a certificate of active involvement, which is one of the requirements for the NBC ninth cycle evaluation. Complete the evaluation form using Google Forms, either via Zoom or the self-paced option to receive your certificate of participation from the sponsoring organization. The evaluation form is available 10 minutes before the end of the resource speaker's presentation. It will serve as your proof of attendance. For the Department of Education or other private institutions, teachers, you are only required to complete the evaluation form to receive your certificate of participation. Take note, the certificate of participation is available 3 days after the event. Please send us an email with some inquiries about the event. According to Somyo Lejima, research can be undertaken in any kind of environment as long as you have the interest. I believe that true education means fostering the ability to be interested in something. To our speaker, Dr. Gilbert C. Magulo Jr., University Director for Knowledge Management, Cagayan State University, Professor, College of Teacher Education, Cagayan State University. To our virtual conference director, Mr. Ricky A. Kibinko, Pinoy Educators Advocating Social Media Education Incorporated, National President Mr. John Michael C. Sonza, officers, technical committee, participants via Zoom and via YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to the first day of our webinar 2023, National Research Conference in Education, Series 1, with the theme, Gearing Research Towards Sustainable Development in Education, with the host organization, Pinoy Educators Advocating Social Media Education Incorporated, with the topic, Developing Research Problems and Framework and Critical Gap Analysis. We are glad to meet all of you online today, and even if you are all away from each other physically, and despite of the current unprecedented situation that we are in, we find ways to be able to collaborate and make sure the mobility, productivity, and creativity are not hampered due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So without further ado, let us start the webinar with a prayer. All together, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Our ever-loving Father, the core of every reason, the source of truth. You who made the earth and the heavens are the ultimate goal of every knowledge seekers, the infinite wisdom, the cause of all that is good. We are truly grateful for this opportunity to gather together as a community despite the challenges we face each day. Yet you remained and gave us strength to carry on the responsibilities of bearing intelligence and using them for better purposes. We now humbly ask you to join us in our endeavor to explore the wonders of life in the world for knowledge's sake, that in whatever we learn today, we become more grounded to you, who is truth, who is love. We pray that you bless our speakers, the fount of your infinite knowledge, that they can share something worthwhile despite the limited time we have. They can channel all they know and share to us the beauty and truth of living as your child. We pray that you guide our participants, the seekers of your boundless knowledge, that they may continue to persevere in the search and be deemed worthy to share what they learn from today's session. Sanctify us, O Lord, not because we are worthy of it, but because we believe in your love and mercy, that at the end of the day, we can take home something that's amazing and meaningful. This we ask and pray through Christ our Lord. Amen.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have some concerns or queries about a topic, you may access the chat box, which is below the video if you are using a smartphone. If you are using a laptop, the chat icon is on the upper right-hand corner. Type your name in the chat box so you will be acknowledged. We will be having the open forum or the question and answer portion after the speaker's presentation. For our listeners here in Zoom, you may use the chat function or the comment section to share your thoughts or questions in writing. I will be notifying you ahead if you are recognized. Thank you. Now, it is with pleasure that I introduce to all of you our esteemed resource speaker this afternoon. He is the University Director for Knowledge and Technology Management at Cagayan State University. He was confirmed as an accredited full-fledged professor for by the National Accreditation Committee of the Philippine Association of State Universities and Colleges. He started charting his career as a private elementary school teacher, private elementary school head, and faculty of a private higher education institution before his employment at Cagayan State University as an undergraduate and graduate school professor. He obtained his PhD and educational management degree in 2013 at the age of 23, Master of Arts in Education 2011, and BA Generalist 2010. He published numerous research articles, Index and Scopus, Clarivate Analytics, and ASEAN Citation Index journals. He has presented research in various international, national, and regional conferences and symposia. He has been awarded Best Research Presenter, Best Research Paper Awardee, and Best Research Mentor. 2018, Distinguished Faculty Researcher in Social Science category at Cagayan State University. Outstanding Researcher, Silver Awardee, and the 2022 Southeast Asian Excellence Awards. He serves as editor, guest editor, and reviewer of various Scopus and WSSSCI Index journals in the field of education. He has been an associate member of the National Research Council of the Philippines since 2018 under Division 1, Governmental, Educational, and International Policies. He was recently approved as member of the National Research Council of the Philippines for NRCP regular membership this 2023. He is one of the top 1,000 scientists in the Philippines in the Alper Duger Index ranking. He has visited, lectured, and presented papers in ASEAN universities such as the Thai Nguyen University in Vietnam, National Institute of Education, Nanyang Technological University, Singapore, Cristo Yahenty College and Amity University in India, and Buriram Rajabat University in Thailand. He also served as plenary speaker at the Third International Research and Education Conference hosted by the Association of Filipino Teachers and Educators in America Incorporated, and Bicol State College of Applied Sciences and New Technology, and keynote speaker at the 2021 Bali International Conference of Project Management, Bali, Indonesia. He is the resident speaker of the Philippine Institute of 21st Century Educators and the national president of the International Congress of Innovation-Based Researchers and Innovators Incorporated. Ladies and gentlemen, please all welcome our esteemed, remarkable, and incredible resource speaker this afternoon, Dr. Gilbert C. Magulu Jr. Let's give him a virtual clap.
Thank you so much, Joven. Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. Magandang hapon po, no?
Magandang hapon po sa iyo, Dr. Magula.
Okay. All right. This session this afternoon is the beginning of the series on the talk of this National Research Conference on Education. And I would like also to extend my heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Ricky Kibinko, the National President, and of course, the National President of the Pinoy Educators Advocating Social Media Education Incorporated, the sponsoring professional organization this afternoon. Okay, so with that topic, I'd like to talk on the developing research problems and frameworks and critical gap analysis. I think this is actually one of the crucial topic to be discussed in the conduct of research, because this is the common problem for both teachers, in-service teachers, pre-service teachers, even graduate and these undergraduate students, that they do not have research topics. And this is actually the most important part in the conduct of a research. The question today is, what research topic will I venture on, and what specific methodology you might be able to use in that specific research? So I hope we will try to answer the outcomes this afternoon. And the following outcomes are the following. First, you will define a problem-based research project. What is a problem-based research project? The second one is you will be able to use the different tools as a scaffold for defining a research-worthy problem. Third, develop your own framework for research problem as the cornerstone of a quality research, and provide a practical guide on locating problems that could support scholarly research through literature review. So when a student comes to you after the session and you are a research advisor, a thesis advisor, a dissertation advisor, you may be able to provide that executive ability, executive leadership with them on how you will be able to guide them on the process of developing a research problem. Because whether you like it or not, one of the most difficult tasks of a researcher is you do not have a research problem. And that is basically ang nakakatuwang pangyayari sa buhay ng isang researcher, kasi wala tayong research problem. And that is actually the reason why we need to immerse ourselves on the basics and on the scaffolds on how to develop a worthy research problem. So that's the learning outcomes for today. So let me begin with what is a research problem. First, I got this literature from Kerlinger and Lee. These are pioneers of action researchers. They are luminaries in action research. They noted in 2000, Kerlinger and Lee in 2000 noted that the identification of the research problem is the most difficult and the most important part of the whole research process. Because when a faculty member does not have a research problem, then how can you venture on a specific problem of inquiry? This has been noted by Creswell in 2005 that according to him, one cannot place value on research without a clear understanding why that research had been conducted. So we hope to address this concern that beginning pa lang ng problema, identification pa lang ng problema, you already knew the value. Why are we conducting research for a specific group of communities, group of people, or for a specific group of practice? Another, why do research? This is basically Kerlinger and Lee who suggested that if one wants to solve a research problem, one must generally know what the problem is. Another one, Sekaran in 2003 said that no amount of good research can find solutions if the critical issue or the problem to be studied is not clearly pinpointed. So at this session, I hope I will be able to provide you the workable knowledge on how you will be able to craft a good research proposal by way of establishing first what is a researchable topic to what is not a researchable topic. And I'm very happy that we have plenty of participants coming from the different regions of the country, both teachers in the Department of Education and of course, professors and instructors of different state universities and colleges. When you talk of a research problem, I'd like to emphasize these 4 important points coming from authors. O'Connor in 2000 noted that a viable research problem is a central and most highly important part of any quality research. So the beginning of a research is actually the problem. Then charting the problem, it becomes actually the gap. The other one by Liddy and Ormrod, they have noted that the heart of every research project is the problem. And it is actually paramount to the success of the research effort. Imagine the amount you put into the specific problem of inquiry, and at the end of the day, you were able to finish the research, then nothing happens. Then probably you have just wasted a time, effort, and money. You know that for those people who are in the field of education, particularly in the field of educational management. According to Liddy and Ormrod in 2005, they also suggested that when the research problem is clear, it becomes actually the axis. That is actually the compass in which the whole research effort revolves. So we must understand that in every research topic that we are trying to do, let us try to have the value analysis on it. Anyway, I will be discussing some of the criteria later in selecting a good research topic or a good research problem. And furthermore, they noted that to see the problem with unwavering clarity and to state it in a precise and unmistakable terms is the first requirement in the research process. So basically, these 4 important points will provide you the idea that when one will conduct a research, you must be able to identify the specific problem, and that specific problem must be grounded on the word research worthiness. So with that, Creswell in 2005 affirmed, how worthy is your research? Or we have the term research worthiness. First, Creswell noted that a research becomes worthy when you are capable to know the gap in the body of knowledge that should be filled. And that is relating to the gap in literature. And that is one of the reasons why research papers are being published, because you want to provide and knowledge. You want to generate knowledge. Second one, will previous research be replicated and expanded by looking at a different category of participants, environment, or constructs or variables? So that's the second one, the expansion of knowledge. The third one is, will that research or will produce research be expanded by a more thoroughly examining some identifiable aspects? Because if we all know that in science, in research, we have what we call its attribute as the nature of its determinism. That's why knowledge becomes certain, knowledge becomes facts because they are factual, and whenever you repeat an experiment, same knowledge will become the result. And of course, the last one, Creswell would note that are there specific, identifiable, and documented problems with the current available solutions? So this reminds you that if you are capable to answer these 4 important questions, no, in the conduct of a research, problema pa lang yan, no, na capable na kayo kung paano sagutin tong 4, no, tong 4 na katanungan galing kay Creswell, then your research is worthy to be conducted. Okay? Other scholars and researchers or literature would suggest that there are other ways or perspectives why we see worthiness of the research. But I'd like to inform you that our discussion this afternoon is limited to this literature I have. So this is what we are using, the literature from Creswell. Baka mamaya may magsabi dyan, no? So this is actually the limitation of our talk this afternoon. Another is that if we try to look at the structure of the process, no, I got this from Ellis and Levy in the framework of a problem-based research. The question on a problem-based research is this: bakit siya naging research? Definitely, it becomes a problem. It becomes a practical issue, in a practical concern that needs to be addressed. And in this framework they presented as the role of problem in the structure of the research. When you go back to your thesis or dissertation, or in writing your IMRAD for research article, in your introduction lies the background of your study. So therefore, the background of your study should be able to define why that research has been conducted and what makes that research become a contributor to the development or a contributor to solve an existing problem. So let me try to look at this one. So if this is the research problem, definitely we have to generate what we call your research questions. So from that research problem, you generate specific research questions. You try also to look at the hypothesis, the existing theories or hypotheses that underpin that particular problem of inquiry. And that basically becomes the goal of the research. Of course, from that goal, you try also to look at that methodology of the research. Is it in accordance with the goal or research question, or the methodology being used will be able to address the research question? Then later on, the results of the study, the conclusion. That's why research is basically a cyclical process. And from the way we do research, we do not forget that the literature review must be able to support and validate all the results from the generated findings or from the findings of our researches. So with this framework, I hope you try to understand now how the research problem becomes the heart of a research project. So a research project is actually a research that is composed of different components. So why faculty members, particularly in state universities, we prefer to do research projects than research study? Kasi sa atin, sa state universities and colleges, kapag research project kasi, medyo mas malaki yung project, mas malaki yung solution natin sa problema. Because in each project, there are different components. So therefore, the research problem serves as the basis now of the interrelatedness of the distinct elements entailed in research. And I hope when students come to you, or when you later on guide your students to do research, you must be able to see how these different elements are gearing towards the address, no, towards the solution of this research problem. So in figure 1, it illustrates how interrelatedness by providing the conceptual map of that research-based research cycle, indicating that the central of the research problem for the research endeavor. Another concern we have is when you are proposing for a specific research, funding agencies will always ask you, is your research aligned to the institutional agenda, particularly for external funding for state universities, submitting it to the Department of Science and Technology, Department of Agriculture. They will always ask, is that research problem aligned to the agenda, aligned to the Sustainable Development Goals, aligned to the attainment of the objectives of our institution, particularly on the Harmonized Research Agenda for 2022 to 2028, because the OST and its partner agencies already released the new National Harmonized Research Agenda for 2022 to 2028. So with that span of years, no? So we try also to look at this one, that the research problem must be able to reflect the goals or objectives or agenda of the institution. Okay? So ito po ay pahapyaw lang, pero pupunta na tayo sa scaffolding ng mga proseso. So with this, the first question is, where do I begin? That is basically the song, no? Where do I begin? And in doing a research, that is actually the step 1, answering the problem sensing and diagnosis. So, hindi lang po tayo nag-iisip-isip ng kung anong problema, yun na ang i-research natin. In short, we try also to become economists, because a good researcher is also an economist. And when you are an economist, no, in everything you do in your research project, involved yan ang pera at effort. So, tatanungin yan at the end of the day, yun bang effort na ginawa mo, talaga bang may hustisya? No? Sa research na ginawa mo, talaga bang may hustisya ang kaperahan? May hustisya ba ang pagod mo doon? Kung walang hustisya, then forget. No? Forget it. Huwag na kayong gumawa ng research. So to do a research, it starts with a critical gap analysis. We call it a problem sensing and diagnosis. So let me present to you 4 important scaffolds this afternoon. These are the gap analysis tool. The second one is the critical thinking tool. The third is a problem tree. And number 4, opportunity tree. I'd like to share some personal note. I have actually 3 advices for doctoral degree this semester. And it is actually the pattern that when these students really come to me, I ask them, what would you like to venture on? Then they said, sir, wala pa po kaming research problem. So with that, we try to get these tools as scaffolds so that ma-realize natin na ang paggawa ng research ay hindi lang po basta-basta, kundi ang paggawa ng research, iniisip natin yung end in mind. May patutunguhan, may pupuntahan, at later on, may impact at nakakatulong sa nakararami. And I hope that is the reason why teachers are doing research, because they want really to solve a problem. And that is not basically being put in the shelves and nothing happens. So we try to avoid the file drawer problem. So with this, we try to provide this concern. So yung estudyante ko, binigyan ko sila ng tool. And we hope that I can also cascade this information at your level nang sa ganon medyo maklaro natin, no, kung paano gumawa ng research starting from the problem sensing and diagnosis. So the first one is the gap analysis tool. So from the problem sensing and diagnosis, I will be walking you through 4 equally important elements in problem gaps identification for your research or for your topic, no? for developing research problems and framework. The first step you need to put in mind will be diagnosing or identifying or defining the problem. And that addresses what will you do or what will you venture on as a research topic. The second one will be on the action planning. The third one will be reviewing the literature. And the fourth one will taking the action. So let me walk you through the first tool. We call it as the gap analysis tool. The gap analysis tool is a very basic tool for one. If one would like to do innovation intervention in your specific district, locality, or institution. Project management leaders or project management experts would tell you that this is really the basic form tool to understand where are you and what you would like to do or what would you want to achieve. In education, we have what we call educational planning. And in educational planning, we refer to it that bridging the gap between what is and what should be. Now, in your gap analysis as a starting point of research for problem sensing, it starts with knowing the current state of your institution or your subject or at your level. Then, identifying the desired state. And later on, what are the key steps to bridge the gap becomes your action plan. And this becomes the framework in developing a research problem. Okay? Next one, why we do gap analysis? We do gap analysis because we want to understand the current state to the desired state. And in quality assurance for problem gaps identification, napakadali lang ito, no? From these steps, action plan can be outlined and it focuses on the perspectives of your organization, which is also researchable, attaining quality in your institution, attainment of the mission, vision, goals, and objectives of your institution. How do we improve the processes in your institution? And how do we introduce change and innovation in your institution? No, at your level as a teacher, this can also become a clear format for you to understand what would you like to do in your classroom as a form of research. So I'd like to give you an example that there are steps in the gap analysis. The first step should be identify first the general area of concern. Pero ang unang parameter kasi natin, kung gusto yung gumawa ng mga research na yan, ito ba yung topic na malapit sa puso ninyo? Passionate ba kayo? Pero pag wala na yung passionate dyan at hindi malapit sa puso nyo, later on, you will not love that research. Second, identification of the specific area needing improvements. And third will be determining the targets. Fourth, determining the current state. And fifth, determining the actions to be taken. So this is the given example for problem gaps identification. Suppose that one elementary teacher would like to do research on the areas of process or management. So you must be able to describe the general area of concern by writing all the specific concerns being encountered by your institution. In the given example is contextualized at the level of the Department of Education. Educators naman tayong lahat dito. So I hope may magkakaintindihan po tayo. So in the desired state, for example, a researcher will do a research and he noted all the specific problems. The first one is all 580 pupils must be independent readers with 90 to 100 correct answers in the PhilErie in X district. The current state was only 380 are independent readers with 90 to 100 correct answers in the PhilErie. And the gap is that you have 200 pupils who are at the frustration level having below 75% correct answers in the PhilErie. So that is the first identified research gap for problem gap analysis. The next one, 680 pupils must have normal weight based on their BMI. But in your district, for example, there are only 300 pupils who have normal weight based on the report submitted by the school nurses. And still the gap there is 180 pupils are underweight and 40 pupils are overweight and 20 are obese. So you still have a number of underweight, overweight, and obese. And that is actually the gap that needs to be addressed. The third one, all 120 students must have 75% proficiency and problem solving in math, but the current state is that 60 students can manifest worded problem solving competency, as shown with their math test results from the fourth grading. And the gap becomes 60 students have below 75% proficiency in problem solving skills in mathematics. So that's the third problem you identified. The fourth one is, you notice that in your desired state, all 120 MTs stands for master teachers, not matagal ng teacher 1. So MT should be master teachers, must have action researches or innovation projects for the past school year. But the current state you have is that out of 120 MTs in your division, only 70 have action researches or innovation projects last year. So the gap becomes 40 MTs do not have research proposals or innovation projects. So this could be a pressing concern because you are still on the process of identifying what research problem would you like to do or would you like to venture. On the fifth level, all 75 language teachers in X division must be proficient in using ICT in the classroom instruction to promote interactive learning process. But the current state is deplorable because only 47% or 35 of these teachers are only using ICT in teaching based on the report submitted by the ICT coordinator. And the gap is that 53% of teachers in X division are not proficient to use ICT in teaching language arts. So with this, I'd like to inform you that the researcher was able to identify this problem, and these problems are eventually looking at the desired state, the current state, and the gap that needs to be filled. Now, in the first problem gap analysis, we always define that conducting research nowadays is not actually an individual endeavor. It should be a group, it should be a collaboration, a group effort. So when one would like really to address a particular problem in the educational system or education sector, mahirap naman po kung mag-isa ka lang na Andres Bonifacio ang lumalaban. So you need also to call for other collaborators na kapanalig mo rin at kaparehos mo ng field na you talk with them that let's try to talk together and try to look at the gaps so that we could come up with a very purposeful and purposive research project. Okay? So iba na po ang group power na tinatawag natin because when you later on submit for a proposal and group yung grupo nyo na researcher, the higher chances of being given priority to be funded. Rather than mag-isa ka lang na gumagawa sa district mo. So dapat we try also to understand that research nowadays must be collaborative. So with this, this group of teachers came together to understand the gap, and after conducting the gap analysis, they answer the essential questions, and you need to do the write-up process. So from this identified gap, the write-up process must be able to answer the essential questions. What is the prescribed standard or behavior? What is the current or actual behavior or situation? What is the difference between the standard or current to the actual performance of your institution or performance of your pupils, performance of your students? Then the next process there will be to write the process by narrating how the gap analysis was conducted. Take note that the beginning of a research must be able to have actual data. That's why when the students would try to submit a proposal at laging sinasabi lang yan, mahina kasi yung mga bata sa math subject na ito, sa English subject na ito, sa reading subject na ito, then they should be able to justify the pieces of evidence. Because gone are the days that we are just plowing back information. No? Today, what makes research practical and relevant is problema pa lang yan, identified na natin kung ilan ang non-readers, ilan ang hindi, ilan ang kaya. Yeah, you must be able to have a quantitative data already. Because after all, the beginning of a research is a problem, but that problem must be able to have quantitative backup. Okay, so quantitative information. So how will you say that this group of community, no, is experiencing this kind of disease if you not have even data of how as to how many of them is experiencing already fever? So all of these are initial data in the conduct of a research or identification of a problem. No, that's why doctors, when you go to doctors will not really tell you sa door niya, pag nakita ka ng doktor, sabihin ba ng doktor sa'yo, agad na ang sakit mo? Hindi. The doctor will still diagnose you. And that is also the process din in doing a research. You must be able to provide the backward data as form of diagnosis why that research problem becomes really a problem. So we hope to address that kind of concern in the conduct of research. So from that identification, no, the next step now will be able to identify what is specific steps to be undertaken. Suppose that this group of teachers already come together and they have identified the desired state, the current state, and the gap, and what steps to be undertaken will be the next level. Okay, so that is the basic for problem gaps analysis. So what is the step to be undertaken from this identified problem? Will be able to allow you understand the next tool we have, which is the critical thinking tool. Okay? Bago tayo dumako sa critical thinking tool, may katanungan po ba kayo sa gap analysis? You have questions in the area of gap analysis?
I think very clear po sa kanya, Doc.
Okay, thank you very much. So, yun po, no? The beginning of a research is a problem, and the beginning of a research problem is related to the gap. So, gap should be identified first. But another information is, when you do a gap analysis of the problem, you must be able to establish already the data to justify that this is a problem, no? That's why in the given example, no, if you tell that in your district the problem is malnutrition, you must be able to establish already the data that out of 800 students or pupils in the district, these are the number of overweight, underweight, obese, or undernourished children. So we try also to become scientific in our approach. We try to become realistic, because at the end of the day, if we are just only telling that this is the gap, this is the problem, no, we might not be able to answer really the problem or address the problem that needs to be addressed. Okay, so after identifying the gap, you come now to the level that you do critical thinking tool. And to do a critical thinking tool is actually the process. Why are you identifying now the specific problem that should be addressed? So why critical thinking tool? The critical thinking tool as an approach for problem diagnosis will tell you that from the gap analysis, having quantitative data, you must be able to provide concrete evidence, figures, even test results, performance, etc. And to complete the objective identification of the problem, you need the second tool, we call it critical thinking. Now, in the critical thinking tool, you will find out it by using the scaling of 1 to 5. So as you have identified the specific problems, kanina 5 yung problema natin, the next level will be prioritization. So how do you prioritize? You prioritize it by using the Likert scale, 1 as the lowest and 5 as the highest. So, tingnan nyo, problem gaps analysis pa lang tayo pero gumagamit na kayo ng mga tools na yan. So you will find out by using this scale of 1 to 5, which among the gaps you have enumerated in the gap analysis is the most relevant, most important, the most urgent, and most doable. So these are 3 important criteria. Most important, most urgent, and most doable. So translating that, it becomes this one. So among these identified gaps, no, which among them is the most relevant, most doable, and the most urgent? So you have identified 5 equally important research problem. I'd like to inform you that when we do research identification, we need to go through this process kasi iniisip natin, hindi naman pwedeng gawin lahat yan ng researcher na mag-isa siya. So kailangan mo ring mag-prioritize. That's why in conducting research or in research management, you have the economic side, the economic skill of the researcher. Ano ba dyan sa problema na dyan ang mas makakatulong sa tao at mas makakatulong. Kahit isang problema lang dito ang ma-address mo, ma-address na din yung ibang problema. So in the critical thinking tool, these are the criteria. So these are the gaps identified. 200 pupils are at the frustration level having 75% correct answers. 180 are underweight. 60 have below 75 proficiency in math, 40 MTs do not have research proposal, 53% of teachers in X division are not proficient to use ICT. So ito yung mga identified gaps niya. But in the process, the researchers come together to come up with a research project, then they rated among these identified problems, what is the most important? So they scored 5, 5, 5, 4, 5. Okay, what is the most urgent? So 5, 5, 5, 5, 4. What is the most relevant? 5, 5, 3, 3, 4. Which is doable? Or easy to do? Or easy to arrest? Or easy to address? So these are the numerical variables and they totaled it down. Then you need also to rank so that you will know what will be the priorities. So in this given example, 200 pupils are at the precision level having below 75% correct answers in the field area is the prioritized problem, the prioritized gap. Okay? Other researchers can also look at the other areas, but in this given example, no, ang ginawa lang kasi nating example today is this one. So on reading level. Okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4.5, 4.5. So from that prioritization, the critical thinking tool will tell you or will ask you what are the essential questions. Okay, which of this gap is the most relevant, most urgent, and most doable? Do not forget these 3 important criteria. And what are the reasons or pieces of evidence to support the decision? Then narrate it. How the most relevant, important, urgent, and doable among the determined gaps. Okay? So based on the narrative statement, based on the identified 5 problems in gap analysis, the researchers prioritized the 200 pupils at the precision level having below 75% correct answers in Philippine reading inventory, being the most important, most urgent, most relevant, most doable research problem to be addressed in the district. Reading, as one of the important survival skills, involves adequate reading comprehension. A significant skill for a child to learn other subjects, which is crucial to learners' academic performance. Recognizing words on a page but not knowing what they mean does not fulfill the purpose or goal of reading, which is comprehension. As such, for a learner to understand key concepts in different subjects, they must be a good reader. They can easily follow directions, draw conclusions, note details, make inferences, predict outcomes, or even sequence events. Therefore, if 200 pupils from these grade levels are still non-readers or at the frustration level, they will not be able to perform all skills automatically resulting in poor academic achievement and poor performance, then immediate action must be undertaken to help these non-readers before the end of this school year. So basing from the gap identified, so that is the narrative statement. So in each identified problem, we have the most important reasons. No, what makes this research problem important, urgent, relevant, or doable? So in this given example, reading would like to be addressed or should be addressed by way of looking at the gap. Okay, so this is how you narrate it, no, in the introduction section. That's why in your introduction, in your thesis, or in your dissertation, you must be clear that the gap, the practical gap, must actually bear the quantitative data. Okay, so from that narrative gap statement, what happens? The next tool will be the problem tree tool. Okay, so balikan lang natin ng review natin. We identified 5 research problems. Then the second one, in the critical thinking tool, they prioritized based on the criteria which is the most urgent, the most doable, most important, and the most relevant research problem that needs to be addressed in your locality, in your district, based from the scaling of 1 as the lowest and 5 as the highest. The next level now will be the problem tree tool, which we call it as the problem tree analysis. Okay, in your problem tree analysis, project managers have a higher level of executing problem tree analysis, no? Because sa state universities and colleges, before the implementation or before conducting research, may mga requirement yan, no? Nagre-require sila, lalo na kung yung research mo, nagre-require yan ng mga 5 million, 10 million to 15 million research funding, hinihingi yan ng funding agency yung tinatawag ninyong log frame analysis or LFA. And your LFA can only be generated from the problem tree tool. Okay, what is this problem tree tool? This is a management tool, no? Your problem tree tool will help you understand why key problems exists. Second, it explores the cause-effect pathways, including the cross-causal linkages. It identifies specific causes that can be acted upon. It represents a system thinking approach to analyze the cause and effect that will help you identify the multiple causal linkages. And it will help you see the most critical elements of a rigorous project design or a research project. And usually in the problem tree analysis, since it should be a group activity or a group conceptualization, no, the use of cards, 1 problem per card, makes the tool useful for group participation in a workshop setting, or the outcome represents the collective thinking of the participants. So from this problem tree, no, na-mention ko na kanina yung paggamit ng LFA, we have the steps. So list all the problems that come to mind. That's actually the first step you did in your problem gap analysis. Then problem needs to be carefully identified. They should be existing problems, not possible, not even imagined or future ones. The problem is an existing negative situation. It is not the absence of a solution. Second, identify the core problem. From that core problem, you may involve considerable trial and error before settling on one. Third, determine which problems are the causes and which are the effects. And fourth, arrange in hierarchy both causes and effects. How do the causes relate to each other, which leads to another problem? So from this specific problem, we have identified the 200 pupils who are non-readers or who are at the frustration level based on the results of the Philippine Reading Inventory tests. So in your problem tree analysis, this will be able to help you identify the problem that will be the focus of your research. You will now outline the possible immediate underlying and root causes of the most relevant, most important, most urgent, and the most doable gap by using the problem tree. This technique helps you understand the context and relationship of problems and the potential impacts when targeting a research project. So from this given example, this problem tree was simplified, and this was done this way. So let's try to look at the problem. 200 pupils has been deprioritized, no, from the critical thinking tool you have. The first priority there, the items having the highest number of, or the highest rank, was this 200 pupils from grade 3 to 4 to 6 who are still non-readers or at the precision level. If this is your research problem, no, if this is actually the critical thinking tool of the result, then therefore you try now to think as a researcher, what are the factors contributing to it? What causes these non-readers? Okay, in the given example, this is the level now in the conduct of a research wherein you try to hypothesize, you try to think for specific variables that might be affecting the problem. And that is basically the ability of the researcher to factor out causes and effects. Now, in this given example, these 200 pupils who are non-readers or at the precision level were analyzed. What causes? From the result, poor reading comprehension of pupils causes them to become non-readers or who are at the frustration level. Okay, the other one is they have weak home background, causes these 200 pupils who are non-readers or who are at the frustration level. And third, traditional reading teachers who are traditional teachers or antique teachers, no? Kasi in the context of heritage, kung 50 years old na po, no, ang building, heritage na siya. So kung 50 years old siguro si teacher, heritage na rin siya. Ngayon, so this has been the three identified causes, no, major causes of this frustration level of the students, no, in their performance in reading. Now, again, you try also to factor out what causes poor reading comprehension. It causes reading comprehension because there is inability to sustain focus or concentration among the learners. Then you ask again, what causes them to have inability to sustain focus, concentration? Because they have poor nutrition. Okay, so this is now the problem tree analysis wherein you factor out the cause-effect relationship of things. Okay, another, poor reading comprehension is attributed to the poor word recognition and vocabulary. What causes poor word recognition and vocabulary of the learners? They lack the word attack skills. Okay? So ayan, in this given example, hanggang dito lang tayo sa level 2. You can again factor it out to the level na mas complex yung details. But this is just only for the talk, no, this afternoon. Another, weak home background is a reason for the low-level performance of reading of students or pupils in reading. What causes weak home background? The absence of reading culture at home. What causes the absence of reading culture at home? Because of illiterate parents or busy guardians. Another, what causes weak home background? They have dearth of reading materials at home. And it's a dirt because they cannot buy materials. So poverty incidence in that locality or district is high. Again, on the level of traditional reading teachers, what causes teachers to have traditional reading teachers? The absence of remedial reading program. Why there's an absence of remedial reading program? Because limited knowledge of remedial reading strategies and materials by the teachers. Okay? Because they do not attend seminars or trainings. Okay? Another, what causes them? they are used of that old strategies in teaching reading, wherein in the teaching of reading, you are also dealing with learners, because today you have two kinds of reading materials. You have your online materials and the physical reading materials. So if the teachers is not even proficient to use this online or ebooks or what kind of learning material, then preferably you will not be able to develop the culture of reading. Okay, then what causes these old strategies? Teachers have lacked commitment in adopting innovative teaching strategies. Now, in the given example, what makes this as a problem tree? This makes a problem tree because you try already to factor out what causes this problem. And that's the beginning of a research. No? Do not do research if you did not read something about it. So therefore, to do research like this, you must have already consulted what has been stated in the literature, or you in the group, you already talk it out, no? What causes this kind of problem? Now, to give you an idea, if you are a researcher and you'd like to address all these three problems, to address this main problem, then you are conducting actually a research project. Okay, sabi ko nina, ang research project composed of different activities. So this becomes actually now your project 1. Poor reading comprehension, ang dami mo ng research topics na ma-generate dyan. No? Inability to sustain focus, ang research topics na yan, ang daming research topics. In fact, this becomes your project 1, poor reading comprehension, focusing on these causes. This becomes your research project 2 and research project 3. Now, research project, kailangan mong i-conduct lahat yan, na-address mo yung solution na yan. Alam nyo naman, kung teacher tayo, no, hindi naman tayo masyadong maraming economic resources na gamitin. So, titignan mo lang din kung saano ka papasok, because you will be also rating which among this problem, no, will be addressed easily or will be addressed practically. No? So baka mamaya si Sir Joven i-choose niya na problema tong illiterate busy parents at saka sa poverty, magbigay siya ng livelihood sa mga magulang ng estudyante, pwede pa rin yon. Pero ibigay mo lahat yung livelihood in the form of giving them also resources, bigyan mo sila ng pera na kanilang gagawing hanap buhay. So sa level naman natin, kung mag-isa lang tayo na researcher, medyo mahirap i-sustain yon, no? So, titignan din natin yung economic side. While we are so ambitious to tell that we would like to address the reading comprehension of these pupils, teka muna, hinay-hinay muna, ano ba dyan yung pinakakaya mong gawin? So, that becomes your framework now to design a good research problem. Okay? So, other problems can be factored out like inadequate instruction, no? I will give this as your activity. Factor out what causes inadequate instruction, the lack of appropriate reading materials, or the poor reading attitude. So, other areas can be explored. No? Next. So, this is the cause and effect, no? This is the given sample of the cause and effect. So, the problem being investigated, you already factor out the causes. In other way around, you also put the effects. No? So cause and effect. So as you are writing down the causes below, you are also writing the effects above. But what I just gave an example is dito lang tayo sa baba. No? Kasi limitado ang oras natin. So baba muna ang unahin natin. No? Diba Sir Joven? Ang una mong kainin ay sa baba. Okay, so this will be the starting point of the research problem. Next. So how do we write up the process? So narrate how the problem was conceptualized and its causes and effect. If you go back to the given example, we have actually identified 3. No? So in order to generate effective solution for the problem associated with 200 non-readers in English, for example, the immediate causes, underlying causes, and root causes of the said gap were analyzed using problem 3. The immediate causes of the existence of 200 non-readers are pupils' poor reading comprehension, pupils' home background, and traditional reading teachers. So, himayin po natin Poor reading comprehension, why? Pupils lack focus, concentration, and poor word recognition vocabulary. The root cause is their inability to sustain focus, concentration to learn because of poor nutrition. Literature would tell you, according to the American School Health Society or Association, giving kids a healthy breakfast plays an especially important role for nutritional well-being. Without a boost of the start of their day, young brains cannot function well. Moreover, chronologically, malnourished children struggle to read and write simple sentences regardless of their level of schooling, according to research by Save the Children. So, sabi ko nga, problema pa lang yan, meron ka ng literature. Okay? So, ganun po ang researcher. No? Hindi po tayo nang huhula-hula. No? We try also to consult what have been studied before about the topic. Meanwhile, the root cause for poor word recognition vocabulary is the pupils' lack of word attack skills. So word attack skills are important so that pupils can make sense of the unknown word in the context of reading. Word attack skills rely on the ability to recognize sounds that make up words and to put those sounds together. More advanced word attack skills involve using context, prefixes, suffixes, etc. Okay? So another one, reading is not just only pronouncing words. Then, if pupils lack knowledge of these strategies, they cannot decode, pronounce, understand unfamiliar words. The other problem was the weak home background of the pupils. This is brought by the absence of the culture of reading at home because of busy or illiterate parents, as well as dearth of reading material. Akindele in 2000 asserts that reading culture and parental involvement in the development of children are the most crucial factors which form the foundation of child's education. Another problem we have identified a while back was the presence of these traditional reading teachers. These teachers seem to be too complacent, relaxed on the pupils' poor reading abilities to think of implementing or adapting reading program to address the problem of non-readers. However, a deeper analysis will reveal that they have limited knowledge of how to conduct remedial reading strategies. Okay? So as such, reading is not an attractive activity for the pupils. So this becomes the result of your problem tree analysis. Okay lang po ba kayo? Okay?
Yes
Sige.
yes po, Doc.
Next. Other example would tell you, you can also come up with your own problem tree analysis in the context of higher education. No? Ito naman, what causes unemployment and underemployment of higher education graduates. So nakikita naman ninyo, yung pinaka-level 1 cause is mismatch of skills, mismatch between population growth, mismatch between demand. So if you are really critical, no, you try also to factor all of this. No? So ito naman sa mga pang-college. So what you see doon sa taas are the effects. So anyway, we hope to conduct a separate session in the conduct of LFA. Next, from the identified problem, because according to John Adams, every problem is an opportunity in disguise. So you have, imagine, from the conceptual gap analysis, nagkaroon ka ng problem gap analysis 1, nag-critical thinking tool ka, nag-problem tree ka. What comes next? The next level is to convert the research, that problem, into an opportunity. And the next tool will be the opportunity tree tool. Okay. Naniniwala ba kayo sa sinasabi nila na ang problema can become an opportunity? Okay. In business, that is actually the reason why businesses are sustainable, because from the problem they develop something to address the problem. Then that becomes an opportunity. A good quality of a researcher, a good researcher, is to convert opportunity, to convert problem to an opportunity. And from that given example, I would like to introduce the word opportunity tree tool. From the problem identified a while back, the problem tree involves writing causes in negative form. If you have noticed, puro negative yung naka-state doon. Now, if you reverse the problem tree and replace it with positive ones, they become solution tree. So a solution tree in a way that poor comprehension was replaced by good comprehension, and a solution tree identifies the means-ends relationship as opposed to the cause and effect, and they provide an overview of the range of projects or intervention that need to occur to solve the core problem. So from the given example, from 200 pupils, from grades 3 to 6 who are still non-readers or at the precision level, it becomes an opportunity when you translate it into positive, they become 200 pupils who are good readers. So transposing it from negative becomes positive. Poor reading comprehension becomes good reading comprehension. Weak home background becomes, good reading comprehension. What causes it is inability to sustain focus concentration becomes solid focus concentration. Poor nutrition becomes proper nutrition. Poor word recognition becomes good or satisfactory word recognition. Lack of word attack skills becomes good knowledge of word attack skills. And the next level, weak home background becomes a strong home background. Absence of reading culture at home becomes presence of reading culture at home. Parents who are busy becomes concerned, supportive parents. Dearth of reading materials becomes appropriate reading materials. Poverty becomes sustainable job for the parents. So you have already translated it into positive ones, and that becomes the solution. So if you have narrated actually in a positive way, no, yun na po yung starting point ng intervention ninyo to conduct a research. So traditional reading teachers becomes innovative reading teachers. This becomes actually the research goal of your research. From the problem, traditional reading teachers, this study will be conducted to address the traditional reading teachers to become innovative reading teachers. Absence of remedial reading becomes implementation of a good reading program. Inadequate knowledge of remedial reading strategies. The use of old strategies in teaching reading becomes the use of modern strategies in teaching reading. And lack of commitment becomes commitment in adopting innovative strategies in teaching. So from that problem, you translate it to an opportunity, and that becomes the goal of your research, the goal of your research project, the goal of your research study. And that should actually be written in your background of the study or in your introduction. Okay? So that's why we always tell a good research introduction must be able to tell the significance of the study. Okay. So putting it into context when you write it down, using the opportunity tree, the researcher came up with possible solution to the immediate, underlying, and root causes of the existence of 200 non-readers in English from grades 3 to 6 in the division. May I request Sir Joven to read the succeeding statements? Starting from pupils must be given proper nutrition.
Pupils must be given proper nutrition, that is food rich in nutrients, so that they will have good focus and concentration inside the classroom, which will result to good comprehension when they read different types of text. Pupils must also have knowledge and word attack skills in order to be good in word recognition or vocabulary, which is instrumental in having good comprehension. As far as the weak home background of pupils is concerned, there is a need to have literate, supportive, concerned parents so that a reading culture will be cultivated inside the home. Research published in the British Journal of Educational Psychology shows that the involvement of fathers and mothers in creating a reading culture at home has a direct impact on a child's academic performance, cognitive, and social development. Parents must also have sustainable jobs in order to be able to purchase appropriate reading materials that will develop love for reading among their children. Meanwhile, traditional reading teachers must have adequate knowledge of remedial reading strategies and materials that they can use to come up with a school reading program to address the needs of the non-readers. These teachers must also be armed with commitment in adopting innovative strategies in teaching reading so that reading will be an activity that pupils will be looking forward to every school day.
Thank you, Sir Joven.
Welcome
So,
po.
from that narrative statement, balikan po natin, no? That becomes your opportunity tree, that 200 pupils who are good readers. You have actually put into context how to develop them as good readers. So they must have good reading comprehension, strong home background, and innovative reading strategies. Now, if you are a researcher, you cannot do all of this because it has so many variables, dependent variables, confounding variables that need to be addressed. So you try again to prioritize, and suppose that you choose these innovative reading teachers because you find this one as less costly, it's more practical to do, then you proceed with the next tool. We term it as decision-making tree analysis. So that will be the next step. So from this identified problem, who are teachers who are students, no, pupils who are good readers, no, here comes now the word, what projects, program, or studies will I conduct? No, take note that a program is a group of research projects with a single goal, management, resources, and mission, definitely higher budget. Projects is corresponding set of activities with the primary goal of implementing large-scale tasks, and its main attributes are the availability of deadline, resources, and mission. And programs, no, must have 3 projects. Okay, then kung gusto mong mag-execute lang ng isang research, then isang study lang yan, because under a project are studies. So bahala na kayo kung anong gagawin nyo. Now, I would like to give you example of some of the reading projects on research, no? And these are the titles of action research projects I got from Google. So effectiveness of project, parents facilitates reading at home, FPRATH on reading performance of grade 1 pupils in mother tongue-based multilingual education. So as you can see, it only addresses one of the identified causes of non-reader. Okay? Second, Project Lab R, Love for Reading, exploring DERAS in improving the reading proficiency level of students. Ito. At yung pangatlo, which is natuwa ako, no? May research pala na ganito. Fostering reading level and story comprehension through Marites. The Marites there is Marungko approach reading intervention to elementary schoolers with mentor-mentee arrangement. As you can see, from the identified problem, you can actually devise your own creative and sexy titles for a project. Yung iba naman, Project Dear, Drop Everything and Read. Yung iba naman, Project Basa, building and advancing students' ability in reading to address, no, the identified 200 non-readers. So that becomes actually your research project. Okay? Now we do not stop there. Okay? Let me skip this one. So balikan natin, from the problem sensing, you did a gap analysis. From that gap analysis, you went through as far as doing the critical thinking tool. From that critical thinking, you went as far as coming up with problem tree analysis. And from that problem tree, you were able to come up with opportunity tree. The next level now is the evaluation of your decision. Then, statement of the problem. Okay, if you have noticed, if you go back to the process, how do we really devise or define a research problem? So pwede po yan, no? This is just only a suggestion because ang dami-daming techniques naman on how to come up with a good research problem. And I hope this one is a solution, no? Because that addresses already what research problem will I venture on, or what is specific problem of inquiry. So when we talk of research and we talk of systematic approach or methodological approach in problem sensing, it needs to undergo the process. And this process is what we call methodological. Okay? So from that opportunity 3, the next step now is action planning and choosing from alternatives. I still have 30 minutes, Sir Joven. Okay? So the next one, after doing the solution 3, do now the decision-making model. And in this example, no, we are already here on step 2, choosing from alternatives. Because if you are a researcher, you always make decision. Okay? If you are a leader, a school leader, educational manager, you make decision. And take note that as you are making a decision, is it research-based? Is it based on the methodological approach? Okay, so the next step is using the action planning called decision-making process. The decision-making process, I got this from Robbins and Coulter, and they have identified 8 steps in identifying a problem. And these are, okay, as you have identified the problem, what will you do? Identify the decision, gather information, identify alternatives, weigh the evidence, choose among the alternatives, take action, and review your decision. So this is the Sussman's model of decision-making. From that level, you try to go back from this. No? So 200 pupils who are good readers, you still need to do a decision analysis matrix here. So what is this decision analysis matrix? So this one. Okay, so again, you put and set the criteria. Example of the decision-making model matrix. This is the problem, 200 pupils who are good readers. And you have the criteria to address the solutions or possible solutions to the problems. First criteria, manageability of data. You always tell, in conducting of a research, one of the criteria there is how will you get data or manage data easily. The second criteria will be speed of implementation. When you conduct this research, matatapos nyo ba ito ng 6 months? Matatapos nyo ba ito ng 3 months? Authority of the researcher, is it within your field of specialization? If not, then do not conduct research which is not within your authority. Unless you conduct interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary research wherein you are with experts who are also experts of other field of specialization. Cost efficiency, is this the research, the solution that I can do wherein I can better conduct the study easier? And when I use this alternative solution, does it have potential impact? And when I choose this one, does it have that likelihood of success? So ito yung mga criteria ninyo, no? So bahala na kayo kung anong criteria ang gagamitin, but as you rate the identified problems, you rate it 1 as the lowest and 5 as the highest. So from the adequate knowledge of teachers or remedial instruction in reading, knowledge of word attack skills, teachers' commitment, proper nutrition of pupils, sustainable job of parents, ang pinaka-love nila na solution ay number 1 kasi mas pasok siya at swak siya doon sa criteria na establish kaysa naman providing sustainable job of parents by offering livelihood program. Kung kaya yun, why not? Kung kaya yung enhance yung nutrition ng mga bata, why not? But in the process, no, we are on the process of doing a decision making. So suppose that the researcher decided that this will be the solution to the problem. adequate knowledge of teachers on remedial instruction and reading. Okay, so from that, based on the identified parameters of deciding which of the solutions identified in the opportunity will be implemented, the adequate knowledge of teachers on remedial reading instruction was rated with the highest score. Hence, this could be derived as the most appropriate intervention to reduce or minimize the number of non-readers in X division. So yan po yung kanyang decision-making process. Okay? So what comes next? As a teacher, as a researcher, you made a decision. Okay, I will skip this one. So this is actually the decision-making process. So I will skip this portion. Doon tayo sa next level. Okay. So after identifying that as the problem, as a solution to the problem, what is the next step you need to do? Okay. So the third step is reviewing the literature gap. Okay? So, balikan po natin, nakapag-diagnose na kayo ng problema, nag-action plan na rin kayo sa choosing from the alternatives, nag-decide na kayo. The next level is reviewing the literature. Why? Because the literature will tell you what have been studied before about the topic. Okay? And from that, as you are building upon a literature foundation of the problem, the presence of the research problem is almost always established through the presence of literature review. However, there are occasional visionaries who see research problems long before others. The vast majority of research is built upon problems that are well documented. Second, the appropriateness of the research goal for the study, the type of research to be conducted, and the research questions to be answered is similarly established through literature. Likewise, although even the methodology is structured by research question, it's appropriate that they must be established through literature. And fourth, in the manner in which the results are analyzed to produce the study's conclusion is also anchored in the literature. So therefore, in the given example, you have identified a while back that the decision is for the teachers to have better remedial teaching strategies as the most cost-effective solution to the problem. Now, the question is, what is your research problem and what is your research gap? Your research problem already identified and your research gap will be read by way of literature. And that's the next level. And I'd like you to have a walkthrough session on the process of doing the literature review. Okay? So from that process, identified okay, balikan po natin ha. Ito yung concern po natin kanina. Ito. Okay, adequate teachers, knowledge of teachers on remedial instruction and reading as your decision to address the 200 pupils who are non-readers. So in doing a literature review, you must be able to consult what has been established before about the topic. Again, the basic step there will be to consult what has been established about the topic based on Google Scholar. So suppose that you have already identified that remedial reading strategy, then again, go to Google Scholar and look for remedial reading strategies of teachers. And from that topic alone, you have already generated 294,000 results about this. Okay? And from that, you read, and read. You also look at how you custom range the article based from 2018, because you want it 10 years back or 5 years back. So 2018 to 2023, click search. These are the studies conducted about remedial reading strategies. So some has been reading difficulty and its remediation, a case study, effects of positive youth development, approach to literacy. Okay, so from this, you try to get literature about the topic. So you find also literature like this. So for example, the word remedial reading strategies of teachers, you look at this one cited by 21 authors, no? By Akyol. You can also sort the information, remedial reading strategies of teachers plus, because you want your research later on to have its global aspect, then you try to click Asia. So all of the studies here about about reading strategies plus Asia, all the studies will come from Asia. Okay, so oral corrective feedback, etc. Again, you want it to have a global dimension in Europe plus Europe, because you want to establish the global dimension, no? What has been the remedial reading strategies of teachers. Okay, so, and of course, if you wish to get really information that are credible, then you can put Elsevier. Okay, remedial reading strategies of teachers plus Elsevier. So as you click, ayan. Okay, so you try to read, no, the impact of professional development program on EFL teachers' beliefs about corrective feedback, no, remedial reading strategy. So lahat ng information na pag sinasabing Elsevier, meron na kayong credible source kung saan nyo kukunin yung mga information na yan. Okay? So, yan. Okay? So kung gusto nyo naman ng mga Scopus, gusto nyo naman ng mga Thomson Reuters, so you try to become selective. Okay? So remedial strategies. Okay, other way around, you can put remedial reading program for elementary. Okay, because you want also to read more of the literature, what have been the emerging concerns regarding remedial reading intervention for elementary in reading. Okay, so you have these effects of an early reading intervention based on graphosyllabic decoding and fluency training in French elementary. So you've got already a data from France, no? And all of this. Okay, so another way is, of course, if you are a researcher and you are on the process of identifying a problem, you must not be contented on what have been published about the topic. You also look at the term literature review. What does the literature will tell you about this topic? Because a literature review is synthesizing 250 to 500 research articles about the topic. So as you click on the literature review, okay, ayan, so you can get information from Spinger, effects of reading intervention implemented for upper elementary struggling readers, a look at recent research. Spinger is Scopus. So it has been cited by 18 already. And if you wish to cite, just click cite. You just copy it. But let's try to get this because this one is a good research for your information, for your literature. So this is a literature review. It talks about how a reading intervention from 1988 to 2009 for elementary struggling readers are conducted based on foundational, comprehension, or multi-component. Even the hours of intervention, paano lang ginugroup size ang mga bata, and individualization, and what are other possible moderators of effect. Because when you are also designing your own intervention, you try also to read, no, what will be the most appropriate time for the pupils to do intervention, to reading remedial strategies, in what group. So you try also to look at this one. You cannot implement a good solution to the problem if you do not read literature, what has been the information about this. So for intervention area, only multi-component intervention predicted significant effects for both comprehension and foundational outcomes. So based on this, the overall, more research examining the quality of the school provided reading instruction and how the severity of reading difficulties may be impact based on the effects of more intensive intervention. Okay, so another one, you also go to semantic scholar. Okay, so your semantic scholar will help you understand also what are the emerging theories about remedial reading. So when you click, no, from Google Semantic Scholar, remedial strategies, remedial reading strategies. So try to sort this study from that education, date of range, no, it should be 5 years. Okay, it must have PDF. Okay, so there you can see many information, critical thinking tool to improve reading strategies, application of cooperative learning, the need for remedial reading program using supplementary syntactical oriented, strategic reading intervention for left behind learners in the Philippines. So should you wish to get this information, you click here, PDF, no? And as you click on PDF, the paper has an available PDF. So as you click on PDF, there you go. You got a literature from the Philippines about strategic reading intervention. Then you have already information what have been studied before about reading comprehension in the Philippine context. So try to read, try to look at the variables. Okay. Of course, if you are a researcher, you do not only settle for less, but you need also to read about the theories, no, about remedial reading. Okay, so you try also to understand theories of reading. Okay, so as you click theories of reading, you have theories of reading according to Kong, no? So as you click on the theories of reading, ida-divert ka niya doon sa literature. Okay, so you read a lot about this one. Okay, so I'd like to inform you that the conduct of the literature review will help you understand why that kind of research problem is happening. Okay, so after knowing all the theories about reading, you have already read the theories of reading. What comes next is you must be able also to establish a local information in the Philippine landscape. What is now the status of reading in the Philippines? So you get also data. Okay, so you get also status of reading skill of reading. For example, status of reading comprehension in the Philippines. Okay, so you have also local data coming from PhilStar. Philippines has the lowest reading comprehension among 79 countries. No, basic reading comprehension in the Philippine setting. Even UNICEF, no. So we got this one so that we can have a better data, because UNICEF would tell you that in April 2022, the lockdowns impact due to pandemic, UNICEF cites poor reading skills among Philippine kids. So you read a lot, no? Then you try to get this data as part of the background of your study. Okay, so that justifies what makes the study justifiable, because you were able to chart the problem from the global to the local and to the present context. So looking at that, no, poverty before the pandemic happened, 69.5% according even to World Bank. UNICEF latest joint report with UN Educational Scientific Cultural Organization showed that schools in the Philippines have been closed, no? And you do a lot of readings so that you can really establish the way how a good researcher will try to develop a good research method. Okay, so with that, no, the literature, I hope they help you. Another one, you also consult what has been noted by DepEd. So you go now to DepEd data, you go now to other regional data you have in your region. If they can be found in the internet, then probably they can give you a good justification, a way for you to develop a good research problem and framework for your research. Okay, so therefore, after knowing what are the existing problems through literature, that's the start now of looking as to differentiating a research gap and a research problem. Okay, so your research gap becomes now the area of interest that has not been explored previously in literature. It identifies the gap about the knowledge and identified from the literature review. And your research problem has been practically identified as an area of concern or existing problem that should be investigated. It identifies, articulates the need for that research, and it forms from the research gap. Okay, after that, you need now to understand that the topic, the research problem, goal, and research questions are equally important to be developed as you are establishing the problem gaps of that study. So research goals essentially detail what the research study intends to do in order to address the problem, thereby answering the question, what will this study do? The research goals are operationalized by one or more research questions. Research questions becomes the narrow purpose of the research into a specific question that the researcher would like to answer or address in the study. By attaining answers to those research questions, the study goals are met and contribution towards solving the problem is made. Since problems that can inspire scholarly research are generally rather difficult in their very nature, the contribution towards resolution is generally quite small. However, in order for the research to be meaningful, there has to be an identifiable connection between the answers to the research questions and research problem inspiring the study. Okay, so in that way, you try now to develop your own statement of the problem, the major goal of the study, the specific objectives. Okay, then narrating it, the purpose of your research, because at the end of the day, after doing all the systematic and methodological processes, you were able to put the purpose of your study presented in bullet form to determine, to investigate, to evaluate, to compare. And take note that your research purpose or the purposes of your research are actually the promises of the author to the reader, the promises of your endeavor that should be attained at the end of the conduct of the study. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I end my presentation and thank you very much. I am now ready for the question and answer portion.
Once again, thank you so much, Dr. Magulod, for sharing your time, effort, and expertise with us this evening. For the information of everybody, we will cater to as many questions as possible, depending on the availability of our time. We will select questions raised by our participants here in Zoom. And to those who will be tapped to ask questions, I would like you to introduce yourself first, the institution where you are affiliated with, and your question. And Dr. Magulo, they are very eager also to conduct research for NBC 9 cycle soon. And unfortunately, there are some wants to clarify something. That's why we have questions in our chat box.
Okay, Sir Joven.
Dr. Magulod, is the narration or from Simon Peter Toribio, is the narration of the gap analysis found in the introduction po?
Yeah, that should be the process, because when you draft the introduction of your research, it should be stated the gap. This should be stated the gap. Kaya nga, why are you conducting a research? It basically answers for equally important question. What is known? What is happening and what is not known about the topic. So in the area of what is known, you need to put ito yung mga factors that are contributing why do you need to conduct this study. Kaya hindi lang natin sinasabi na ang mga bata, I conducted this study because I have poor level comprehension in this specific competency. In the narration of the gap, you already stated the data there that they are poor because out of these scores, they perform really low out from this report coming from the principal, coming from the guidance counselor. Kasi in the development of a research problem, ikaw na researcher, problema pa lang yan, may data ka na talagang problema talaga yon. So mahirap din kung nananaginip lang tayo na sinasabi natin na problema yon. Okay, so yun po. Dapat ang gap ng study with the data should be in the introduction section. Thank you for the question, sir.
Another question po, sir. Are there any slides to share?
Slides?
Pwede, yung presentation niyo po, pwede po bang i-share po daw?
Yeah, I can give you the slides. That's for free. Give ko po sa inyo. Pero I can also give you yung ito po, no? Meron po akong device dito na ginawa na lang sa Excel para pwede nyong kunin at pwede nyong gawin sa mga institutions ninyo. So nandito na gap analysis, proforma na po ito, maglagay lang kayo ng mga data, critical thinking tool, yon, naka-establish na rin yung mga data, problem tree, dito na i-guhit yung drawing ninyo, solution tree, then decision making model. So ito yung decision making natin kanina. Then ito na isulat na yung statement of the problem. So yun po.
Thank you so much, sir. I think Sir Zuwini have something to ask Dr.
Yes,
Magulod. Sir Zuwini, I think. Sir, go ahead, sir. Sir? I think sir having a intermittent connection. Another question, sir, from Oliver S. D. Mailig. In identifying hierarchy of the cause and effects, is it possible to use the fishbone diagram?
Okay. The fishbone diagram is another diagram, another model. Okay, that is another model. Your cause and effect kasi in the problem tree analysis is another model. So what I have presented to you is the problem tree analysis, wherein you really factor out the cause effect the causes. What I have presented a while back is nag-focus lang tayo sa causes. Doon kasi sa problem tree, as you are writing the causes, sa taas sinusulat mo rin yung effect niya. Okay, so dahil sinimplify natin yung version, so naging simplified problem tree analysis tayo. But I do not limit you to look for other alternatives kung ano pa man yung mas madali ninyong gawin para makapag-identify kayo ng problem. Because after all, ang proseso lang dapat natin is systematic. And this is just one of the ways to define a research problem. Wherein if you go back to literature, sinasabi din na what are the sources of a research problem? Of course, research problem comes from culture. Research problem comes from the authorities, from your professors. So in this way, tinitingnan natin paano maging practical yung paggawa natin. Kasi wala talagang definite way to develop a research problem. And this is one. And I'm very thankful I was able to share this information to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Magulod. From Sir Gary, I am so blessed to be part of this session. I have gained a lot of ideas on how to construct a relevant research topic. Very informative. Thank you so much. And of course, I think this is the last question, Dr. Magulod. From Sir Jason Piliano from St. Mary's University. I would just like to ask if it is necessary that the research gap should be new upon the study. I am still a pre-service teacher.
Okay. There are many ways to state a research gap, but the first one, if you're telling that the research gap is new, that is actually basic parameter to judge yung talagang novelty ng research yung aplikasyon nito at yung bakit ko siya gagawin, no? And gaps have different types. Pwedeng practical gap. What I have just presented to you today are more on practical gaps, because practical gaps are the problems you really encounter as your institution is operating. So yun yung mga lagi nating na-observe na practical gaps. Other way is your literature gap, wherein your literature gap can become a methodological gap. Maraming uri rin ng gap. So in writing down your introduction, tignan niyo na yung gap na yan is may practical gap kayo as well as may literature gap din kayo para later on ma-publish din yung research na yan.
Thank you so much, Dr. Magulot. Yes, Sir Joanie, go ahead. You have something to
Hello po.
ask? Yeah,
Good
go ahead,
evening
sir.
po. Hi, Doc. Magulod po. Nice seeing you po once again. Ito po yung questions ko po. Una po nasagot na po ni Doc kasi my first concern is that when it comes to identification of gap, yung gap po ba is ina-identify lang through the problems that you have within your institution, but it was already answered by Professor Magulod that we could also find gaps sa mga literatures na meron tayo. Then another problem po na meron ako na lagi pong concern po namin is that yung number of literature that will be using to support the problem that you have. Is there any discussion po ba when it comes to the number of literature that the researchers will use to support the problem that they have? Thank
Okay,
you po.
very good question, Sir Giovanni. Okay. As to the context of literature to tell na gap yan, it is very necessary that in every research, there should at least two types of literature. The first one is a systematic review, and the other one is a meta-analysis. A systematic review is just if you have just only downloaded one article, but it's a literature review, it synthesizes 250 to 500 studies about a topic. And one literature review can become a good background or backup for a research gap. The second one is a meta-analysis, wherein that meta-analysis is same as synthesizing 250 to 500 words, but that meta-analysis has statistical data to tell that, for example, men outperform women in terms of mathematics performance. So, yun. So, now, in that context, kung hinahanap talaga ninyong research gap, you can get data from literature reviews. Literature reviews. So, ang requirement natin, sa bawat research ng mga estudyante natin, dissertation or thesis ninyo, dapat meron kayong 5 or 4 na literature na metasynthesis or systematic review. Para hindi ka na rin mahirapan. Unless ikaw na researcher ay gagamit ng Prisma. You know that word Prisma, prepared structure for meta-synthesis. And Prisma po, matrabaho ang gawin yon. No? I tried that to use in my PhD students sa graduate school. Pinagamit ko po yon sa kanila. So until this time, ginagawa pa rin nila kasi ang requirement, talagang magda-download sila ng 50 to 100 literature about the topic. So that is the requirement kasi kung talagang gusto mong maging bihasa ka sa topic na gusto mong i-explore, kailangan mong i-immerse yung sarili mo sa mga topics na yan at alam mo ang research gap niya. Because a research gap gives you 3 important aspects. First, it gives you what has been found about the topic. It gives you what has not been found about the topic, and it gives you what should be done about the topic. Yun po. Thank you, Sir Giovanni.
Follow-up question po. I think there's still 2 questions, Doc. Is it okay?
Yes, Sir Joven. I love the questions.
From Sir Oliver, a follow-up question. With our conference theme gearing research towards sustainable development in education, how can motivate our educators to conduct research, knowing of many teaching loads and other tasks given to them?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that has been the problem since the establishment of the Philippine educational system. That's why when you talk of research, one must be passionate to do research kahit ang dami mong workload. Another one, the loading is one of the strategies now given by your institution para makapag-research kayo. May mga incentives kayo in the form of giving you extra teaching load. Huwag kayong magturo ng 3 units, gumawa kayo ng research. Another one, they give also assistance sa mga research outputs po ninyo. They fund your research presentation. So ito po yung mga motivational factors. While we always believe that in the conduct of research, the main factor there is incentive. So if ang mga institutions po natin ay talagang they would like to push our researchers, our faculty members to become researchers, gagawa yan ng paraan po kung paano nila gustong i-develop yung mga faculty members natin. Ang number one question there is, are you the teacher who is really committed and devoted for the development of the skills of your children? So we always believe that we cannot give what we do not have. So therefore, kung gusto nating umangat sa pwesto natin, kinalalagyan natin na faculty members, you must sacrifice. Ganun din po ang experience po natin, no? Ang dami pong teaching load pero umangat naman po tayo hanggang na-accredit tayo na full-fledged professor.
Thank you so much, Doc. I think this is the last question, Doc Magulod. Sir, my question is, how many literature review for local and international is needed in doing a research? And the second question is, there is any limitation in the pages of research, like doing an immersion paper po?
Unahin kong sagutin yung last question. It depends upon the pronouncement of your research advisor or the institutional policy kung ilang pages po yung gagawin ninyong research. So yun po yun. Wala pong kwan yan kasi napaka-flexi po yung kwan natin. In fact, faculty members, hindi ko alam kung may mga institutions na ang pinapagamit na ngayon sa research ay IMRAD na. Kasi meron tayong dalawang uri din. Meron tayong tinatawag na yung Germanic format, which is the Germanic format, yung talagang chapters 1 to 5. And meron ding institution na gumagamit din ng IMRAD. So it depends po yan kung ano yung pronouncement ng college ninyo or ng institution ninyo. As to the number of literature, necessarily, sa akin naman po is kwan yan as long as ma-convince naman na enough na yung literature ninyo to justify yung research study na yan with the use of your metasynthesis and literature review. Kasi kung isang metasynthesis ang ginamit na ninyo, nag-synthesize na yung paper ng 250 to 500 articles. So pwedeng maging sufficient na yan na maging backup ng study mo. Okay, so but usually other organizations, other institutions, kung pang undergrad thesis, 50 pong literature na yan, local at international. Pag masters naman po, 100. Kapag PhD, 250 and more. So depende rin yan po kung paano niyo talaga i-justify yung novelty at yung research gap or literature gap ng research.
Thank you so much, Dr. Magulod. For the information of everybody, we don't have enough time to cater all your questions. We will try to reply to some of your queries raised after the end of this session. So maybe I think this is already the end of our question and answer portion. Always remember that according to Crowell 2005, one cannot place value on research without a clear understanding of, first, why that research has been conducted. Once again, thank you so much, Dr. Gilbert C. Magulo Jr., for your passion and dedication in sharing your knowledge and expertise with us. May you be blessed by the Lord Almighty for your dedication to your work. At this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, let us give the certificate of recognition to our resource speaker. The certificate reads, Pinoy Educators Advocating Social Media Education Incorporated, Certificate of Recognition to Professor Gilbert C. Magulo Jr., PhD, for imparting his invaluable time, resources, and expertise as resource speaker on the topic, Developing Research Problem and Framework and Critical Gap Analysis during the National Research Conference on Education Series 1 with the theme Gearing Research Towards Sustainable Development and Education. Accorded this 24th day of February 2023 via Zoom video conferencing. Signed, Webinar Director Ricky A. Kibinko and the National President PISME John Michael C. Zonza. Once again, sir, thank you so much for your time, effort, and expertise you've shared this evening.
Maraming salamat po.
Welcome po, sir. At this juncture, before we finally close our program, let me read to you some announcements. To earn a certificate of participation, you must sign up for the evaluation or attendance form that is posted here in Zoom. The certificate of participation will be sent to your respective email right after this event upon verification of your attendance. Paid participants who didn't receive their certificate of participation within a day, please email to centuryeducators1920@gmail.com, or you may personally message us on our mobile number 0909-812-3190 or 0916-216-5221. To our participants who applied for membership, the amount of 180 will be added for LBC delivery in case the applicants wishes to get original documents. Membership for at least 3 organizations is free of LBC delivery charge. We will follow the mailing address stated in your registration form, or you can email us for your preferred mailing address. We are also encouraging our participants to attend other virtual events sponsored by our affiliated organizations. Tomorrow, February 25, 2023, from 5 o'clock in the afternoon to 7 o'clock in the evening, the ICEBER International Congress of Innovation-Based Educators and Researchers Incorporated will have a national webinar on National Research Conference on education with the topic Digital Tools in Conducting Research. We will have Dr. Darren John C. Tenduwen, Head Center for Social Innovation, Local Knowledge in Education Research, University of St. Louis, Tugigaraw. Kindly check at our official social media page and channel for our details. See you at the next gathering sponsored by Pinoy Educators Advocating Social Media Education Incorporated and all the other affiliated professional organizations. Colleagues, after the webinar, kindly answer the online feedback form. Please know that your feedback to this academic endeavor is very important to the organization, so we may be able to deliver quality education for the next webinar. We will now have the post-session opportunity. Everyone is requested to turn on and face their device camera. Smile because we just had a successful and productive evening session. Sir Zonzal, how many panels do we have?
Okay, so we have 6 panels in our room. Panel 1. So ready, 1, 2, 3, and smile. So panel 2. 1, 2, 3, and smile. Panel 3. 1, 2, 3, and smile. Panel 4. Ready, 1, 2, 3, and smile. Okay, so panel 5. Keep smiling. 1, 2, 3, smile. And last. So ready, 1, 2, 3, and smile. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. John Michael C. Zonza. As we end this worldwide academic discussion, allow me to express my gratitude on behalf of the Pinoy Educators Advocating Social Media Education Incorporated to the following valued individuals whose unending support and expertise have made this learning endeavor in trying time very possible and successful. Our heartfelt appreciation to Dr. Gilbert C. Magulo Jr., University Director for Knowledge Management, Cagayan State University, Professor, College of Teacher Education. To our virtual conference director, Mr. Ricky A. Kibinko, PISME President, Mr. John Michael C. Zonza, officers, working committees, especially to the technical team, participants, and to those people who shared their precious moment in time to make this webinar possible. This has been your moderator, Joven C. Agunda, signing off. Once again, good evening. Dr. Magulod, a million thanks.